All right, they asked Odell Beckham Jr. after the game about the cleats that they had to remove. He and Jarvis Landry had non-conforming cleats during the first half, and CBS reported during the game against the Broncos that they weren't going to be allowed to play in the second half if they didn't change their cleats.
Right.
And Odell Beckham Jr., he thinks that he is the only guy who's ever been fined for not conforming with the uniform rules, who's ever been given a hard time about not conforming, and that is so wrong. And I'm not surprised he thinks he's the only guy who's ever been punished because he thinks he's the only guy, right?
Well, yeah.
The world revolves around Odell Beckham Jr. I know that you are an Odell Beckham Jr. fan, but I'm sorry, at a certain point, you have to say this isn't an issue of immaturity. This isn't an issue of naivete. This is a guy who thinks the sun rises in his face and sets up his ass, and I'm sick of it.
Well, he's a superstar, okay? He is, and we know wide receivers are a little bit like that. There's worse in the NFL than Odell Beckham Jr.
I agree with that.
This is where it's weird to me. Okay, this is the only where it's weird. And again, I'm not for that. Like, I don't want him wearing the $200,000 watch in the field and giving people the ammo there. Or I lost an earring in the scrum with Marlon Humphrey. Like, yeah, that's your fault. You decide to wear, lots of carrots in your ear, and it's football, and things like that happen. But where I think this is just weird, okay? I've never heard of you're not allowed to play unless you've changed the cleats. Never. Fines are fine. I'm just telling you, I've been around the NFL my whole life. I've never seen a player pulled off the field because your visor isn't right and they're not going to let you play. That, to me, is a little bit of a guy who's a superstar who's under the microscope and like somebody from 345 Park Ave's taking special notice of him. All these guys just get fined, like you mentioned. Kamar, they get fined. That's all there is. Oh, okay, I don't have the right cleats on. Any team I was ever a part of, that's where it is. So that's where I just want to push back a little bit. Go, that's weird.
There is a
you're
procedure.
Not going to play.
There is a procedure I'm aware of, though, that if they fine you enough times, it will eventually say that's it. Now, I don't know if they slip these cleats on during the first half. It sounds like Odell Beckham Jr. just decided to wear the white cleats that had some decoration on
them.
The rule is very simple.
Yes.
It used to be, and they should go back to it so there'd be no misunderstanding, everybody just wore the same shoes. It's a uniform. The whole idea is you don't want to individualize a uniform because these guys are supposed to look like they are on a team and they're all wearing the same thing. And it drives me crazy. I still can't get used to it because when you see guys wearing different shoes, it messes with your eyes.
Yeah,
just
sure.
put
You want
the
to see
same
some
colors on top to bottom.
Yeah.
Right? What's the big deal? It's just freaking shoes, people. It's shoes during a football game.
Yeah, but not to athletes. That's not the way they are.
Then do it after the game.
Basketball,
I hate to sound like a get off my lawn guy, but sometimes you just got to get the off of my lawn.
Well, it's just the way athletes are that way. You know me. You see me. I like my sneakers and doing all that too.
But but here's the thing.
Yeah.
We wear dress shoes.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
You don't come out in your Jordans.
No, I know.
Right? You conform.
Right. Yes, you're right. I conform, and I get that. And also, I think we have to explain this little other avenue of the conversation too. The Browns changed what they were going to wear uniform-wise.
Doesn't matter.
During the
that
week.
Doesn't matter. He still can choose black, white, or a secondary color. It doesn't matter they went from white jerseys to brown jerseys.
Well,
that's a false argument.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all.
Doesn't matter.
Change it.
He could still wear black, white, or a secondary team color.
Okay, so you're saying if he had the white, I just want to make sure I got this right, so please tell me if I'm wrong. If they were wearing the white uniforms, the shoes he wore still wouldn't have been allowed yesterday?
They wouldn't have been allowed. He could have worn white. He was going to wear white cleats, right? They switched to brown jerseys, so he wasn't going to wear white cleats. And this is more about, I think, how he thinks the shoes look.
Yeah,
right?
well, definitely.
Right, so he had white cleats with this like Joker stuff on them, and he decided he was going to wear them, so he came out with black cleats in the second half. Look, in my mind, there's nothing that's more functional than the equipment you have on your feet when you're a football player.
Yeah.
And I understand that it's a way to make a statement. It's a way to separate yourself. It's a way to build your brand and all that stuff. There's a point where it's just, look, these are your shoes that you wear. These are your tools, right? You don't see guys painting decorations on their hammer. You just get your hammer and you go pound your nails. These shoes are hammers. These shoes are, because he was complaining about when he switched to black cleats in the second half, they hurt his feet. Well, you know what? If you would have had a conforming pair of cleats from the get-go, you would have had a comfortable pair.
Yeah,
I think
it's also more to it than that. Look, the players, they live by the credo of look good, play good. Okay, there's a lot of guys that are messing with all that stuff. Also, there's millions of dollars at stake with what he has at Nike there, too.
Right.
So there's more there than just a guy that has a hammer that he doesn't want to dress up.
But here's the other side of it, too. your team sucks.
Yeah, so it gives you
so
another...
that should not be an issue. The last thing we should be talking about with the 2-6 Browns is what shoes Odell Beckham Jr. is wearing.
I hear you. I get you. Now, only thing I really challenge in this, and I would really like to know the answers to this, and maybe you could dig through this through, whoever you know in the NFL or whatever. I just don't know anybody who's been told you're not playing unless you change your cleats. I've never heard of that.
That's a fair point.
Okay?
That's a fair point.
And
unless
he's been
fined for non-conforming cleats in past weeks, and they finally decided we're not going to let you play. But you know what? Here's the thing.
Right.
If that's the case, they wouldn't let him on the field at all. It's not. We're gonna.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
And the same with the visor in week 2 against the Jets. I'm just, again, and I might be wrong. And if I am, please, we'll discuss it tomorrow and we'll figure this out. I have just never seen a guy taken off. Oh, you're inside the 10-yard line. Get off the field. We've now deemed your visor has to come off at this second. I've never heard of that in the history of the NFL. So, and maybe I'm wrong. I'm not saying I'm right about it. It's not something I study here. But I've never heard of it.
Here's the thing, though. Yeah. Okay, and this is part of the challenge in life of dealing with whatever circumstances come your way and coloring within those lines.
Yep.
Because right or wrong, if Odell Beckham Jr. has become this personality that there's somebody at 345 Park Avenue who's out to get him in some way and is trying to mess with him by saying what he can and can't wear, there's a point where you just have to accept it and you have to operate within those confines so it doesn't become a distraction for your team. It's wrong. It's not fair. I don't like it. But they've put this barrier here, and there isn't a damn thing I can do about it, so I may as well conform to it so I don't have to get new cleats at halftime, so I don't have to leave the game and take off my visor because I know that they're being jerks and it's directed at me. If that's how he feels, hey, you know what? I think he's wrong when he says he's being singled out, but if he is being singled out, then do what you have to do to not be singled out.
That's fair.
There's a point where you just have to give.
Well, yeah, you're right. Hey, listen, he 345, if they are watching over him, they're watching over him because he's a superstar. And he's got that kind of power to where when I watch the Cleveland Browns, not going to lie, I always look down to see what cleats Odell Beckham Jr. is going to wear. I'm kind of a, shoe for lack of a better phrase that way. I like that kind of stuff.
There are probably better terms than that.
Probably, but it could have been better ones. But that one I think was pretty appropriate and fit the right way. I like a lot, I like to check that stuff out. But either way, your point is real and I get it. I just would like to know the answers to those threats.
He's got 1 touchdown through 8 games this year, 39 catches, 575 yards. That puts him on pace for 78 receptions, 1,150 yards. He had 77 and 1052 last year in 12 games with the Giants. He's only had one 16-game season for his career. He had 1,367 receiving yards that year. That was 2016 with the Giants. So the guy, I don't know, he's not producing superstar stats.
No.
That, to me, should be a far bigger concern for Odell Beckham Jr. than his shoes, than his visor, than his watch. And there's a point where there's just a point where it's played out, it's too much, and you got to focus on your game, not all this other crap.
Yeah.
And
we're just giving everybody ammunition.
Just
like Baker Mayfield last week.
This should not be a talking point when the team you play for stinks.
Yep.
The talking point should be,
fair.
What do I need to do to make the team better?
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.